Oh, you'll be fine, man. You'll be fine. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, ready when you are.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Shop and Chivalry podcast. My guest today, running for Alderman at Large, yes?
Alderman at Large.
Okay, Matt Stebly. How are you?
I'm doing good. Trying to stay warm on this Friday.
I know, right? Well, Matt, I know you. You know, we went to school together, sports, other things, right? And so tell me about yourself. I mean, what have you been up to since high school? What got you here to this point?
I went to Ocean Springs, graduated, went off to Millsaps College, played football there for a few years. And
did you play with Michael Pivnik?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. We played together. Went there for 2 years and realized that, college was not, my cup of tea. I tried it, gave it a go, and then realized I wanted to pursue art. And I didn't feel like I needed a college degree to do that. So I came back home and worked on my dad's charter boat for a few years, and then kind of was working and doing pottery and painting and things like that, as any good Ocean Springs artist would do. And then I got introduced to tattoos, which I'd had a few of them, over the years, and somehow kind of lucked into getting an apprenticeship and started tattooing, I guess, over a decade ago now. So then opened up my shop 8 years ago now. Yeah.
And that was a story in and of itself. I remember.
Not the first one, the one on Washington. I had it a few years before.
Okay.
Getting the opportunity to go downtown, which was an amazing opportunity that I still amazed that I had the opportunity to move the shop down in such an amazing location. Yeah. And I had to kick back and things like that. That was a whole year or two. I wouldn't call it a fiasco because it ended up working out. It gave me enough time to raise the funds.
It was an unnecessary controversy. I mean, it was caught in the news, and it's because I think, well, I'd rather hear your opinion on it. But from the outside looking in, because I was following this from California and then Georgia, and it just seemed like there was a legacy mindset of what a tattoo shop was, and there wasn't. It didn't seem like there was more concern about a tattoo shop, but not what it is. And it's an artistic studio of tattooing, because you walk in there and it's a damn art studio is what it is, So what was your experience like in that?
Again, like you said, it was the cookie cutter image, or the movie kind of image of what a tattoo shop is or was, or what it was going to be. And it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't what I wanted to create for myself. I wanted to have a studio, art gallery, and a tattoo shop, kind of all meshed into one. And it's an experience, as opposed to, you're walking in and walking out. But it's something that people hadn't seen, especially the board. At the time, they didn't have anything to compare it to. I can't fault them for not being able to see what I see. Sure. They were just going by what they had seen in the past, or down on 90. That's there's still a few shops on 90 like that, but it's not what I wanted. And then once we finally got up and running, and I feel like we're a really an asset to the downtown area.
Yeah, I would say so.
And haven't had any negative feedback at all from anybody.
Well, that style of art is on everything. I mean, it's on buildings, it's on paintings, it's on sculptures, everything. And you took the human canvas and put it on that. And I think that's just something that people didn't really anticipate. And perhaps it was the idea of, well, we know what a tattoo artist is, but that's not who you are. You're an artist who does tattoos.
Yeah, I was an artist first.
Yeah, exactly.
And a tattooer second, which I feel like most good tattooers are going to be artists first and then tattooers second.
Excellent. Okay, so why are you running for alderman?
I'm running for alderman at large for the most part, because I was born and raised, in kind of the Gulf Park Estates area, which is going to be Ocean Springs East, which I feel like it needs something. It needs some kind of push. I own a home right there by the old high school on Holcomb, which is in a different ward, and then I own a shop on Government Street, which is in another ward. Yeah. So I wanted to be able to kind of voice my opinion or help out all the different wards, as opposed to just kind of focusing in on where I lived. So that was kind of my best opinion, or
your best strategy, best opportunity, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're running against an incumbent though, Bobby Cox, right? So
yes,
so you are running against him. He's the one that was in there prior. What's your motivation here? I mean, what can you bring to the table for the board of aldermen?
I think I'm a change from what's on the board at all right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more progressive. I'm younger. I'm still a business owner, just like most of the people that are on these boards. But I think I have a little better, just something different to bring, and
Sure.
I feel that's what Ocean Springs needs is something. We're fading in this direction. I feel that's in the long run going to damage what Ocean Springs is, or what most people want it to be. We are an art community. We're going to be always going to be that small town and have that feel. And I think if we keep going in the direction we are, we're going to lose that. Cities are businesses, and I understand that. I own a business. I know, at the end of the day, we've got to have, it's about money. How much we can bring in is what we can spend. Not everything that we want to do can be done right away, but there's a lot of things we can do in the immediate future for very little, money, and get a big return.
Okay.
The biggest thing is unifying the Ocean Springs city limits, without having to annex anything, and that's a whole nother, we can get to that.
Yeah. Well, we can roll right into it. Honestly. I mean, again, this is just a conversation here, brother.
No, well, the annexation.
Yep.
There's obviously two different ways you can go, with Gulf Park Estates, where I grew up, for the first 19 years of my life. I do feel that at some point we need to go ahead and make that a part of Ocean Springs. It's like its own little island. They've kind of gotten pushed to the side, and speaking to a few people that live there, including my parents, I'm not 100% sure they all want to get annexed. At this point.
Well, I live out in Gulf Park Estates off of Bay Street there, and I'm kind of on the fence about it myself. I know one of the concerns that a lot of the other candidates have is that annexing Gulf Park Estates means that you're inheriting problems associated with their infrastructure, like the sewer and whatnot. And that obviously falls on the city's shoulders if they annex, and that's, pretty expensive there. So I think that's where a lot of the concern is for annexing Gulf Park Estates, because if you annex, that's, I don't know how many, thousands of homes that are out there, but that's instantly that revenue. So there's an argument for that as well. But
no, and I like to think of it as a long-term
investment
into the city, because you have all these homes that are middle-class homes. That these are the same kids that are going to the schools. They're still in that school district. They're all going to Ocean Springs. I know. I went there.
Right.
And then it's kind of leaving them out of big decisions. And to me, it's a decision making thing. There's by being in city limits, you have the power to help influence and make
affect
decisions.
Change, right.
Do I understand that it's going to cost the city money to, with sewer and water and things like that? And obviously it's a mess, and there's no doubt about that. But it needs to be done, long term. It'll be good that the tax dollars from all those homes and things like that. And I think that the business, there's a very small kind of chunk of businesses that
are in Gold Park Estates,
are in that little area. Most of those are going to be toward 57 though, like right there by the shed, the interstate.
So are you in favor of annexing all the way up 57 on the west side and all the way up to the shed?
Oh, that's a big chunk of like real estate that coming off of interstate is always a big thing.
Yeah.
You have these people that are going to come straight off of the interstate, and it's kind of like purgatory right there.
Sure.
No one knows what it is.
You basically got Sunplex, and then you hit this 90 intersection that's got the church, and then what? It's like a gamble. Do I go left and go to Gaucher and be massively disappointed? No offense, Gaucher, or take a chance to go a little bit farther and see something wonderful in downtown Ocean Springs. But what's the incentive there, right? Like, there's nothing saying, "Hey, go down here because we have X, Y, or Z."
There's a big gap.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of things that can be put there. Again, it's not going to happen overnight.
Sure,
but to make that whole kind of corner, I guess, of East Ocean Springs, very appealing for some big box stores or some small like apartment complexes or things like that. That will make that whole corner very. It'll give it a reason for being there, not just a giant purgatory space. And they've ran water and they've ran sewer, and I think they've run electrical out there too. So that area is primed up, ready to go. And I know they're putting up an apartment complex now, and I can say this now because Mike Impey, who talked about this on the podcast recently, his episode will come out before this one, and he said that they've secured the Aldi deal. So Aldi's coming and they're going to be in East Ocean Springs. Okay.
So that's a lot of the discussion seems to be centered around like a big box store, a big anchor store, as they said. Now, when I've talked to people, they've had concerns about big box stores, and I kind of share that concern because I've heard opinions ranging from we should drop something like Sangani Boulevard down in East Ocean Springs. And then I've heard people say, look, we should let it organically grow. We should not really affect it because hopefully smaller businesses will just see the need and fill that area. My concern with the big box stores is that franchises typically take money out of local communities to pay franchising fees, use existing logistics lines, so on and so forth.
Yeah, you want to be very selective on big box stores because you don't want to just flood the market with, if it's oversaturated, then no one's going to make any money, and no one's going to be happy with that.
Yeah.
And being very selective on the businesses that you bring into new developments. And I feel like Ocean Springs, we don't need to, put makeup on a pig. It's what it is. Like, it's a very, people want to move here.
Yeah. It's not to say that Ocean Springs is a pig. It's how we don't have to try to sell this thing.
No, we don't. It sells itself. It is a great place to live.
Yeah.
I've been to, I can't think of how many, states and countries, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else besides here.
Yeah.
I've been to some really nice places, and Ocean Springs is where I want to live. I want to raise my family and my kids,
right?
Because I love it that much, and everyone that I know that comes and visits loves Ocean Springs.
Yeah,
I have very few people that I've ever met that are just like, you know what, I hate this.
It's not for me.
Yeah.
And I echo that all the time. Again, I've this is a tired story, but all the air traffic controllers in the Air Force, they come to this area in order to train, and they all know Ocean Springs. They all love Ocean Springs. They love the downtown area. They love the community of it. And those that are stationed down here, most of them live in Ocean Springs with the school district. So again, the city sells itself. It's an affluent community because of that. So it's nothing less than desirable. And that's probably an interesting transition. The city hired a consulting group. They paid $30,000 up front to attract businesses to Ocean Springs. And the goal, I'm mostly correct about this, but their goal was to bring in 100 businesses in a year. You know how many they brought in?
Pretty sure they didn't bring a whole lot.
Zero. So here's something that you might have to be involved in is this kind of decision. I mean, how do you work through a decision like that? And again, this is probably an impossible question because you weren't in the room. There's obviously other details, but I mean, is it just wise to throw $30,000 to attract businesses to a city where it seems why you'd want to be here is fairly self-evident?
No, I mean, again, $30,000 in the big picture isn't a whole lot of money for if it produces X, Y, and Z.
And that's the key, though.
And throwing $30,000 away, no, that's not good business. And that could have been with the contracts and things like that. Again, I wasn't there, but that's back to the whole point of I still don't feel like having to pay somebody that much money to come to a desirable location. And obviously you have to advertise, they advertise Cancun and things like that. And that's a real nice place.
I'm just curious where something like the Chamber of Commerce comes into something like that. Shouldn't they be the people that are kind of bringing in businesses or,
and I don't know exactly what their role in bringing in new businesses. I know they do a great job in, Peter Anderson Festival, Cruising the Coast.
Yeah.
Cynthia, they do a really good job, on that end. So I'm not sure about on the business end of it, but, and honestly, I would have to go down and I know we've heard about all the different Whole Foods and things like that. And I think once we get kind of the ABC and the liquor license thing,
that's a big problem. Yeah.
And that's something that we can't control right now. And I think as soon as that gets fixed,
which they're actively working on it now. Like there's bills on the, the floor of the House and the Senate, I think in the state, if I'm not mistaken.
And once that gets all, ironed out, I think that it's going to help, bring in, or it's going to
remove a lot of the red tape.
Yeah. All the issues that they're having right now. It'll clear that up. That it might throw a whole nother kind of list of red tape issues, after that, but it'll get rid of the ones that we have right now.
Well, I think hopefully by maybe August, September, we'll have rectified it or at least have an actual plan moving forward, because I know obviously it brings in some money to the state. I want to say it's $300 million a year. And so obviously if you're going to shut that down, the state, the poorest state in the union, how are we going to come up with $300 million? Well, I'm hoping that with maybe the money they're going to pull, like the 10% sales tax for marijuana, that should account for that. And if I'm not mistaken, they're expecting like $700 million in revenue from that. That's never been had in the first year. So you can cover that $300 million, have $400 million left over, and that's nothing to wag your finger at, And
I don't know how much we're getting from the lottery. I'm sure that hadn't been calculated into all that.
Sure, that's a good point.
Which people love and hate that. So that's all.
I tell you, the only thing that I don't like about it is how long it's made the lines at gas stations.
Yeah,
that's the only complaint that I have about it.
Luckily, I don't drive a whole lot, so I don't have to go to the gas station a whole lot.
But if I go in there for just a drink real quick, and I got to sit there and someone's got to run through like 7 or 12 tickets, or they're out the window like, let me get a 1, let me get 4 5s. Oh wait, hold on, let me go to my car. I forgot I have to pay cash. It's that sort of thing. It's
Yeah. once it's been here a little bit, the newness will wear off a little. And yet I've still yet to buy an actual Powerball ticket. I used to always go when I drive to Louisiana. I'd always get one.
And now that it's here, you won't do it?
Just haven't.
Come on, man! I need you to buy in on this. Come on.
I even went and got one of the little forms to fill out so I could pick my numbers.
Yeah.
Still sitting on the kitchen table, but having something big, like a Whole Foods, or I'm just using that as
Trader Joe's, one of those affluent ones too, because you don't want just any store in Ocean Springs. I mean,
yeah, you're gonna have it's gonna bring that name, and again, those kind of satellite businesses, throughout. Same thing that happens, in Sangani, or just as like years ago when the Walmart, popped up. There was nothing there.
Nothing.
Walmart.
Everything
it became more, and it's still, gradually evolving. And I think it's, you have to have that main, that staple, that isn't going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's something that I wish we could have done with all those like vacant, where I guess the original Walmart was, and the Winn-Dixie. Was it a Winn-Dixie? It was a few things.
Jitney Jungle or Del Champs? The one that's over by the Ace Hardware, across from the old Blockbuster. Yeah, that was either a Del Champs or a Jitney Jungle.
We have, there's quite a few very large buildings in Ocean Springs that have remained vacant for a lot longer than I would have liked to seen. Mm-hmm. And again, we can't force people to come open up businesses in the town, but there has to be some kind of incentive to bringing them in and using those spaces that already exist. Just like with the one there's a corner building right there by the post office in Ocean Springs.
Movie gallery. That's all part of that. Yeah, it was the old movie gallery.
I was like, that's a great location. Somebody should have scooped that up.
Well, hell, Gold's Gym used to be there, right next to, right in between Winn-Dixie and the BF Goodrich there.
Mm-hmm. Which is, the Halloween store sometimes now?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the problem is I think we don't have enough Dollar Generals. If we can increase Dollar Generals in the store by 5-fold, I think we'll have solved a lot of those problems. We should put Dollar Generals in those stores. There should be a Dollar General in the old KFC building.
Then you have to start diversifying, and usually they put a Dollar General. Then they'll have like a Dollar Tree.
Yeah, for sure.
And the same thing right next to each other, like they're right there on Washington, which that's a whole different conversation about that whole. Getting in and out of those is a nightmare.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the new Dollar General that's there on 90 as you first come in? Because I'm told, and I've been meaning to go up to City Hall because I spoke with Ricky Audemont and Rob Blackman, and they say that it's not what you think a Dollar General is going to look like, and they apparently put some work in to make sure that it's going to be an Ocean Springs worthy Dollar General. So
that could go and there's all kind of analogies I could use for a Dollar General worthy, or Ocean Springs Dollar General worthy. No, but I did hear it is going to be more of an upscale. Like the facade's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Which is already looks pretty massive. I mean, it's which is definitely something different.
It's still a Dollar General. You can do whatever you want with it.
This is where you say the lipstick on the pig metaphor. There you go.
I'd already used it, so I didn't want to use it again.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing that up in North Mississippi. Is it Madison?
It's Madison.
Yeah. There are restrictions. I went to school in Jackson for a few years and getting to see the difference. And, some of the things, at the time I thought were kind of absurd. Some of the restrictions and, things that they had to do with opening up a business, which I'm not saying that Ocean Springs needs to do that. But we do need to have some kind of, restrictions, or you got to set the bar a certain height for, people coming in, and holding people accountable. 'Cause then you don't have that, the rundown, storefronts and things like that. Business owners need to, they're in Ocean Springs. They need to kind of live up or, keep their business to a certain standard.
Sure. Yeah. It seems that Madison has found a way to codify maybe a projection of what they want the city to look like, and maybe that's them codifying their essence of the city, or what the city means to them. And in some ways, I think Ocean Springs tries to do that. You can look again. A lot of the Walter Anderson art is on a lot of the facades of buildings. It's part of murals. I mean, when I went to high school, the Walter Anderson print bags were like really popular, so it was ingrained all the way down to our institutions that raise our youngest citizens, so.
And they've branded the city, and it's not terribly difficult to do, but to keep it going and consistent is the difficult part. I can't say a lot. I try. I feel like I'm relatively decent at branding myself or the business.
You can give yourself some credit, man. That's okay.
I've done a mediocre job, but it's you've got to go with something that you can keep consistent. And me being an artist, I always like to I see something, I've done it at that point. Let's make it better. You can't always do that, and you can't just keep rebranding yourself. And we have like this as the city of Ocean Springs, we've used, Walter Anderson stuff a lot, which I commend, some of the older generation of my family that has been very, very gracious with letting them use pretty much whatever they want, because they are looking out for the best, of the city. They want to see Ocean Springs flourish.
So your lineage goes back to Walter Anderson, right?
Yes, my great grandfather. So my grandmother Mary was his oldest child. Yeah. So some people get it all confused. I have to kind of break it down, but I try not to correct people too terribly much, because.
Yeah, I got it. Fair enough. Well, look, what do you think? Because I know this administration has been critiqued about things like executive session. What are your thoughts on the way that the administration has used executive session, and maybe how would you like it to be used moving forward?
And in executive session, there's the need for it. Is there a need to use it, as much? That again is on the current administration. I haven't been at every meeting they've had. I try to stay as up on it all as possible, but again, well, you can't stay up on everything.
Sure.
And then hearing it secondhand, I try not to take other people's opinions on certain things.
Right.
I like to hear it. I try to make my own views and opinions on it. Do I think it's been used excessively? Slightly. But I always like to, if you do something behind closed doors, people are going to think the worst.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to paint this picture in their mind of, what all is going on back there, what you're talking about, whether it's this, that, or the other. They're painting the picture like you're scheming back there. Which hopefully is not always the case, but I know there's legal, things with lawsuits and salaries, and you can't talk about all that in front of everyone, but you use it. The less you use it, the less issues there are, and it's one of those things where it's kind of like it should be a last resort type thing, and explaining it. I think if people knew exactly what it was, or reasoning for the most part, as descriptive as you can be, it would set a lot of people, at ease, instead of just calling it what it is and then, clapping your hands and you're gone, you come back, hey, we made this decision. Kind of letting people know, and once they're informed, they tend to be a little bit more at ease than if you just leave them up to their own devices and their own imagination.
Sure.
And that's with anything.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the saying? Idle mind is the devil's playground. So, but I think back to kind of how a few things stick out that were done in executive session, but I think the one that you might be most familiar with is the way that the Mary C was handled, and this is my understanding of it, is that they went into executive session because they were worried that it might go to litigation, the issue about the Mary C, but there was no evidence of litigation at that point. Now, I might be off on the chronology of that, but that's my understanding of it, and it could be completely wrong. But that said, if that's the case, part of me wonders, well, if you're worried about litigation, so you go into executive session, but you're going to be sued anyway because you went into executive session, what's the point of going into executive session?
And with that whole situation, I can even skip through all the executive session issue. To me, it just shouldn't have happened in general. It's like taking something that's running very well for the city, that is a huge asset, and then that whole meme of taking a stick and sticking it at a bicycle's wheel, and then,
right.
That's what you did. You can say that it doesn't, make X, Y, and Z amount of money. It's irrelevant. It's an accent to the city. It's a lanyap. Yeah. It's something that brings a lot of what we want the city to be.
Yeah, it's the cultural epicenter of the city. It's the cultural heartbeat of the city.
You don't expect a library to make $1 million. It's there because you need a library. It benefits the city. Mm-hmm. But no, you're not trying to make money off the library. Yeah. You want to. The city we can go and we can start selling beers out of the window and maybe some snacks. If you want to make a buck, that's fine.
You might be onto something.
Some people like to drink some wine while they read a book.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm surprised it's not a popular thing, actually, like a sipping book club.
It's a bookstore. It's just called a bookstore. Right. And it's not run by the city. But no, I think you don't take something like that and just kind of figure out that, or assume that you can do it better and then crap the bed.
Yeah.
For the best way I can explain it. And I don't know the whole idea or the bigger picture behind it. And I could be, wrong. But the way that I see it is you had something that was really beneficial to the city, mm-hmm. to the kids of Ocean Springs. I sent my kids there, and the stuff that they were doing was great. I wanted to go. And it's not cheap. But they were working it out and giving grants to people to kids that, couldn't afford to go to camps like this, and paying for them to go. And, I probably couldn't tell you one negative thing about the whole, the Friends of the Mary C off the top of my head. I'm sure that there's some, and I'm sure they had their disagreements with the city, and
sure.
And I'm sure both sides think they're right. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But sometimes you got to put your pride away and realize that, guess what? This works. It makes the city better. Mm-hmm. Just leave it alone.
So what's your vision for the Mary C then?
Well, as of right now, it is still up in the air. I still think it should be what it was, intended for, or what it was being used for, mm-hmm. Before, all this stuff, hit the fan. I've actually had a few people ask me about a senior center. And I think we could utilize, the Mary C as not just a senior center, but having, classes for youth, seniors, just adults in general. Mm-hmm.
Now, when they say senior center, are they talking about a senior living space or?
Something for activities for seniors to do, not like the Villa Maria or anything like that. Just something for, you have these seniors that have lived in Ocean Springs, maybe their whole life, mm-hmm. and some that have maybe moved toward, retirement age. But they still pay tax dollars just like everybody else.
Sure.
And, there's not a huge list of things for them to do. And I think with, having a building like this in, downtown, we could utilize it for, there's plenty of space in there to do different classes. And they don't just have to be for kids or young adults. They could be for, a wide range.
Yeah.
And, with senior center, like a senior center, because I know, when I get old, I want to be able to get out, do something, and learn something new, or just.
Well, if I know you're not going to wait on a city to provide that. You'll just invest in some sort of establishment to do that.
Yeah, but I think it's the perfect opportunity since I don't see the Friends coming back into that building anytime soon, and that's fine. They kind of
Well, it was an ugly situation.
And I hated to see it, and I hated to see it unfold, and seeing it from the beginning and kind of the way that it played out. I was just kind of more appalled than anything. And the biggest question, I was like, but why? Like, and nobody could really give me an answer on why it all started, or what was the reason? What was the big picture? Like, what did you want to do? Like, they kept saying that they had these plans, and I guess I didn't push hard enough for that answer, but well, I still don't know.
Right. Well, to be fair, they might be tight-lipped because they're scared of litigation, whatever that is. So,
and again, if people know and have some kind of inkling of what's going on, they don't have to think the worst. They at least think something, and at least in the direction that the city's planning on doing.
Sure.
And I know they had a big issue with the stuff that was in the Mary C, which I thought was another thing they're in litigation with now, which is all stuff donated to the Friends. And when the Friends left, I just assumed that they would take it. And then the city wants it back. They don't want it back, going back and forth. And at some point,
I think people are just tired of the pissing match.
Yeah.
Let's just be adults about things.
It is what it is. It's happened. You got to figure out what's going to be the best. You kind of have to wash your hands of it at some point and move on.
Yeah. You think we're at that point?
I hope so. I thought we were already.
Yeah,
right. So, and again, with the whole, litigation issue, it could get drug out, for no telling how long.
Right.
But how good the city is about, frivolous lawsuits and things like that. It seems like they don't really care a whole lot about, costing the taxpayers money. So,
yeah. Well, they've talked about how they're very fiscally conservative, and they, to their credit, I mean, the balance sheet reflects that. But again, I often think this might be one of those times where there's not a solution, there's only trade-offs. And I think what's most important is that we get our cultural center back up and running, producing classes that can proliferate the local art, provide access to local artists, things of that nature. And I think, I don't know that complaining about money and the ability to administrate the building overrules the place running and producing art classes. So.
No, and talking about the city having, being, having the money, the last meeting I went to in person, they were, complaining about how much it would cost to bring to sub out some debris pickup to, another trash company. And, the board were appalled by like spending an extra $1,000 to getting stuff picked up off the side of the road, just trash debris. I know I've got trash debris from whatever storm still sitting in my front yard on Holcomb, going on 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, most cities had pickup twice a week.
Yeah.
Which, that's crazy to me because, I'm used to the once a week.
Yeah. When I lived in Navarre, Florida, it was twice a week. It was like Sunday and Thursday, I think.
Yeah. But, if our city employees can't meet the demand for certain things, why can't we spend a little extra money to go ahead and bring somebody in? It's what the money is for.
Sure.
And I guess just the feeling of, we can't spend, an extra $1,000 to, get this stuff picked up because it looks bad. When you move to Ocean Springs, and I think this is just going to be a me rant, like moving on to something. There's where you're moving to. It's a more, we have the upscale feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we pay more taxes, mm-hmm. and we expect to get the benefits from, those taxes.
Right.
I like to use kind of the comparison to Disney World. I hate Disney World, but it's extra and it's an experience. And when you go there, you're getting that entire experience, and when you leave, guess what? You want to come back. And that's what Ocean Springs can do. You get in there, you have we have everything that you need. You can go to the downtown. You can spend, a whole day with your family, or you can go with just you. I've had clients that just will walk around for a day, and have a great time. But if we start neglecting like those extra, the extra stuff, we might as well, be like a St. Martin or Gaucher.
Right. Right.
And that's just, again, nothing negative about, Gaucher or St. Martin. It's not Ocean Springs.
Sure. So, as it turns out, apparently Waste Pro, they don't pick up the refuse and debris and stuff like that. And the city only has 3 trucks to actually pick up everything from the city. Mm-hmm. So that might be a topic of discussion, hopefully get elected. And that can be something that's brought up, because it strikes me as odd that there's only 3 trucks that they have to clean up an entire city in a hurricane prone area.
No. And that's, it's understaffed at that point. We should have as many, debris trucks as, these towns that have snow and have snow plows. Like sure. it should, balance out something like that. We get a lot of storms. Sometimes they do a little bit more damage than others. And, I don't know if it's, the way that it balance out is being able to sub those, big things out, because again, it's not a everyday thing. Because it's possible we can have them you don't have to actually even sign a contract with them. You can have them, hey, we need you 4 or 5 days a month. Mm-hmm. It's going to cost us, this. If we don't need them those, guess what? We don't have to pay them. But it's going to keep us from having to make that investment of buying more trucks. Can we buy more trucks and eventually be able to, it's like renting and owning,
sure.
You have that. But it'll be able to ease us into getting, that kind of equipment. With keeping the medians, one of the things that just made my head spin was, the issue with keeping the medians mowed. It's one of the first things people see in the summer. We live in Mississippi, grass grows, and somebody on the board was talking about, let's just cut all these trees down that we have in the median because we didn't want to weed eat around them. And I was like, that is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life, is that you're going to take these very expensive trees that we have from one end to Ocean Springs to the other. We're going to cut them down because we don't want to weed eat around them. Now, mind you, the city didn't pay for them. We got them in a grant. Mm-hmm. But I've bought a couple of these trees, and, they're $40 a piece as small trees. So you can do the math. I mean, that is a very large amount of money that,
sure.
somebody like that we got to invest in the city, and we can't keep them weed eated. I'll go out there, if I need to, I'll take a section and I'll weed eat, on weekends or something.
Well, also I would imagine a proposal like that would include, well, the goal would be to just be able to run a mower over the medians, and then you wouldn't have to weed eat at all. But if that's the case, to make that effective, you would have to grind the stumps down too. Otherwise, you damage the mowers. So now you're not talking about just simply digging these things out. You're talking about actually going subterranean and pulling, or at least getting the stumps ground. You're talking about equipment. Instead of just digging out a tree, you're talking about 4 or 5 hours worth, per tree, using equipment to do that. It's not a small thing. It's actually might not even be a realistic proposal at that point.
They're not huge trees. They're and it slipped my mind what kind of trees there are.
I've got crepe myrtles that I'm pulling out of my yard, and man, they're not easy. Of course, it depends on the tree and the root structure and whatnot.
Then you sit there and you do all that, and the city gets it all taken out and mowed, and then guess what? It's besides the whole fact that we've spent all the money getting them taken out of the manpower, then we just have grass, and it looks
plain.
Yeah. It doesn't look nice.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to the extra, like we're supposed to be extra, if we're going to use that tag, if we're going to project the extraness of Ocean Springs, we have to kind of back that up. You can't just say you're the best and then be mediocre. It doesn't work that way. Or it could work that way, but it doesn't work that way for very long until people are like, wait a second, I can go down the road and get this same thing for less.
Right.
I've learned over the years in what I do, it's about the experience. And I try to, in my day-to-day is you're giving people an experience. They're not just paying for a tattoo or a piece of artwork. They're paying for, an experience. And two, people don't mind paying for quality, whether that be, for a tattoo, a painting, or, taxes in the city. If I'm getting that return that I feel like, the city's putting that effort and, beautifying the green spaces and, just making my city look nicer, I don't mind when I have to, cut that check. It makes it a little less painful,
sure.
Because we pay a lot in taxes. I pay small business taxes, and then, I own a home too. So we're paying a lot of taxes in, and it's frustrating seeing and wondering where those tax dollars go.
Absolutely.
As a citizen, and not even, as somebody that's, running for, elected office, it's where is that money going? And I want to know. It gets frustrating, and I'm not the only one asking that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. Now, if we can, let's transition to a conversation about downtown. And frankly, you're downtown quite a bit. Because you work down there, that's where your business is. So, as a business owner, first I'll back up. There's been a lot of talk about how to fix congestion, parking, access to downtown. And there's a few things I'd like to talk about, but as a business owner and also as a citizen, what's your idea? I mean, what can be done about fixing congestion downtown?
I guess going back in time and making cars smaller is going to be the only thing. The way that the road is in that big chunk of downtown, from about Washington to State Street, it's narrow. Most of that doesn't actually legally fit the criteria for having a two-way street with parking on either side. And that's why you don't have those stripes on the side, like the parking stripes.
Yeah.
Because it's illegal.
Oh, nice.
City would get the shit suit out of them because if somebody got hit or it'd be admitting fault if they had the lines painted. So I've heard all kind of different, ideas on how to make, the flow better. And I've been very vocal for the last almost decade on what I think, would help. And it's making, the street one way. And sure you have some kind of, some questions with, how to make it, one way.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, that's the question, because people are scared that if business goes back on 90 to circle around, one, it congests that intersection, but also the worry is that the next available place to come back would be Martin Luther, and might lose the businesses or the business at that point because it would be too inconvenient to come back. But I know Bowen's been some conversation, but.
And there's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's not going to be one that's going to pacify everybody. No one's going to think this is going to be
there's no solution. There's only trade-offs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've listened to everyone that has, some kind of, opinion on just how to make it better. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Connie when she was a mayor, and talked to Shay whenever, he was running and then became mayor. That was the biggest issue, because to me, you have that downtown area. It's going to be creating, the revenue for the entire city. It's going to be a big portion of that revenue.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the draw to, right now it's the main draw to, the city. Mm-hmm. And once that's running smoothly, it gives you time to work on other parts, mm-hmm. of the city. And right now, I don't think it's running to the best of its ability.
Sure.
When it's just not safe,
mm-hmm.
I've got kids. I don't like them going out there. I shouldn't be concerned, that one of my kids is going to get hit or an adult's going to get hit, every day.
Yeah.
Cause people are flying, they're trying to fly around other cars. They can't see, but then also you have that issue with parking. And I have people that come into the shop all the time. They're like, I had to walk 4 or 5 blocks to get over, depending on what's going on, and what day it is. And, so I express, I think, one way is going to be the best option as of right now without having to do any kind of major, like road work to widen anything.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing you get with that, it's going to be better for emergency vehicles. It was when I brought it to Connie, she said, what about emergency vehicles? It wouldn't be able to get to one place or the other. So I said, okay, well, that sounds like a valid point. So I went and reached out to people and clients that I had that worked in ambulances and fire. And they said it's actually significantly easier. You only have one way of traffic you're trying to fight against as opposed to two, which I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
So in the situation we're talking about single lane one way, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a lot easier for emergency vehicles to get through.
Yeah. There's no switching lanes or anything. Yeah. They're just in sequence.
You have enough room for whatever car to get over. Mm-hmm. And then whenever I hear other people talking about, the one way and the issues that it's going to cause, and it's about the parking on, on residential streets, you just don't have parking on residential streets. But having angled parking on Government Street, going with the flow, instead of parallel parking down there, mm-hmm. because you're going to have one flow, like one flow. You're not going to have to worry about two. It's going to increase the parking. I think I did the math, and like 400 times, the number of parking spots by angling parking. You have one side parking and then one side for delivery. Mm-hmm. And then putting a limit on there. I know New Orleans has a time. They have a window that you can have deliveries, because you don't know how many times that I come up. What is it, DeSoto, and can't get past an 18-wheeler that's on that road. I don't know how many people have been down DeSoto. Mm-hmm. It's not a big not a big road.
Not at all.
You can't have two vehicles pass at the same time, but it's a mm-hmm. two-way street. And then have an 18-wheeler right there. What are you going to do? You got to turn around, do all kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But if they could be on Government Street, in their particular area, it makes flow a lot less, angry people. And it's safer. If it's marked, if there's lines on the street, people tend to pay more attention to that than.
Sure. I agree.
Me getting to stare outside of a window, onto like downtown, for however many hours a day, I see it a lot, and I have a lot of time to think about it. So, and I think that it would help having, directing people to, I don't know if you'd call it like the other downtown part, like on Porter.
Yeah.
I think that's a
growing
area.
That's where the city's pushing, more development.
Yeah. And they're doing a lot of really nice, developments like going on that Porter area. But at some point you're going to run out of room, you can only go so far.
Sure.
But there's that weird little kind of dead space, that I think we could do something to kind of create a flow. And I think having the one way can push people easily maneuver people, I guess, to where you want them to go.
Mm-hmm. Would you keep Washington two-way?
I feel like you'd have to.
Yeah.
And then having kind of the parallel roads to government being, the opposite directions. It doesn't fit. I mean,
so on both sides of government, you would have one-way roads going the opposite direction, or just the one, or because I think Bowen's the next available road, right?
Bowen's the next one.
Yeah. So then Bowen would go up, and then they'd turn probably right in front of right next to Tacony and the Mary C, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you'd have them reentry.
And again, it's not the perfect layout because of the way that the entry and exit points are right there by the Mary C, because Robinson doesn't come all the way down to, like, if it could come down an extra block.
Yeah, perfect.
It'd be perfect.
So where do you start the one way then? Do you start like at the do you start east of the block that has the Mary C or west of it? Because east is next to the church. It's closest to the intersection, the three-way. West puts it past Ocean Springs Lumber, right? Yeah, puts it just past Ocean Springs Lumber, and you've got that vacant lot there, which might be the site of a parking garage.
And again, that would be my ideal placement right now. Is
right there, the west of it?
Right there past, like if you're going toward the downtown area.
Be the one past the Mary C.
Past the Mary C.
Okay.
And honestly, I wish we could go back further, so you have that entrance from 90, but it's just the way the roads are set up. And
well, you're still going to have the same entrance. I mean, it's still going to come through Martin Luther if they want to go down that way. But okay, here's a better question: Is the traffic in this design, would it be going eastbound or westbound? Eastbound means they'd come down Washington and they'd go east. Westbound, Martin Luther King would be the first place, and then they could go west.
I think having some kind of vote would be the best idea, because keeping Washington both ways, it keeps your options kind of open on that. Because I'd honestly like to see people coming off of the bridge and going kind of down Porter,
right,
and using that as another entrance. Like this, the first entrance, and then also obviously we have the one coming, right there on Washington, off of 90, and that being two-way. But I think going into, kind of going west, I think is the first thing I think of. But I think it's because I just drive that way, going to work every day.
I would base it off of the delivery trucks if it's me. Because you don't want to make it harder on the businesses, and like if it's harder for them to make that turn from Washington turning eastbound down government to make that corner, personally I'd want to take that into account. I think that's really important, because cars are going to get down there regardless. There might be a minor inconvenience for having to deviate and go the opposite way they were coming, but if you were going to do it, I think that's what I would think.
I think coming off of thinking of it as coming off of the main entrance point, they're going to be coming off the interstate. They're going to come down and take a left onto Government Street. Yeah. Most trucks. So, and that being two-way, I guess would be the most ideal. And then having all but there's so many side roads and so many everybody wants to add parking lots and, kind of taking up this green space for parking. And so you want to just take all this, nice green space that we have and slap some concrete on it. Okay, but we've already got concrete laid in these roads that we can put.
And we can manage it better and make it more efficient.
How much it cost the city $1,000. Get some paint, make some lines.
Yeah.
Not counting man hours, but
sure.
Changing up some of that as opposed to hundreds of thousands to put up concrete. Concrete's not cheap. We've already got it. Why don't we, take advantage of that and make the streets safer, use the resources we already have. Obviously it might down the road, we might have to do some road work, kind of, maybe widen a few of these side streets and, and then add signage, but then we're not also taking up these, big areas that we could use for other developments.
Yeah.
And, just making flat and, for parking.
Sure. So what are your thoughts on making the downtown area kind of a pedestrian only zone? Whether it be full time, because they've got zones like that in different cities. But I know that so when I was in Georgia, out at Thomasville, Moultrie, Valdosta as well, they had like a First Friday kind of deal, and so every first Friday of the month, they would shut down the kind of town centers to all vehicular traffic. And it was just like kind of a party type thing. They had live bands and whatnot. I'm surprised that's not a thing here, but it definitely opens your eyes to, well, maybe like kind of on the weekends that can go to a pedestrian only zone. What do you think?
You get it's difficult in that aspect because again, it's a safety thing. We don't have the infrastructure to be able to put parking, because then we'd be back to just making a bunch of parking lots people can park and then have to walk to.
And so you really want to avoid like kind of constructing some like a parking apparatus. Are you?
Because you still have got the issue of people having to park there and then walk. Or find another mode of transportation, over. When last time I was in Liverpool, they have a pedestrian, like only emergency vehicles can get in.
Right.
And it's nice, but we're also talking about the UK and Europe where people don't mind walking. They have public transit. We don't have public transit, or we have the one bus, but that doesn't count. They are used to walking. They're used to public transit. We're not going to change everyone's opinion on being able to walk a block overnight. It's not going to happen. You tell somebody they got to walk a block, they're going to be like, what do you mean I got to walk a block?
Yeah.
I want to get in, get out, do whatever I need to do, go home. And they're just creating, or the idea is just to create other places to park, and people have to walk 6 blocks to get where they want to go. In theory, it's great.
Yeah.
Theory, it's great. But in actuality, people are going to still park the closest they can to where they want to go.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change.
well, look, how about everybody and their mother that goes downtown seems to have a golf cart. So make it golf carts only.
Then, I listened to you guys that question on another podcast or another episode, and I own a golf cart. Still not 100% sure why I bought one. My wife and kids love it. They go all over. That the whole having just the golf cart parking is not going to work. You're gonna it's gonna cause more and more issues than it's worth. And again, in theory, it works. Let's everybody have a golf cart, and we can all park down there. They're smaller.
City mandated golf carts. Everybody, if you're a citizen, you have to have, and we'll just tax the hell out of everybody if they don't.
I mean, it's kind of like health. It'd be like healthcare. It's fine. Or you have to rent one from the city. Then the city just has to buy a fleet of them.
I love where your head's at right now. I'm just kidding.
We all got to be blue. We can all drive them around.
Yeah.
But no, I don't mind them being around. Like I own one. I still yell at the people that drive like idiots, around. It's not the people that own them per se, but it's, we still have the rental, which is a great business. And that's where I bought mine from. But, there's still, they can't vet everybody, and there's still some people that get a little wild on those things. They're fine for the city. I don't have a big problem with them. I feel like they probably could be it's monitored a little bit better. I know you can get tickets on them. I've seen people get tickets on them, but they're going to be an issue. I'd like to get ahead of it before it became a big issue, or before some big, thing happened. I know there's been a few incidences with some people getting hurt pretty badly on them, but let's try to get ahead of that. And I know it kind of all got passed, relatively quickly, but let's get ahead of that before it becomes a huge issue. Yeah,
that makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
But no, let's not make it a golf cart parking only.
Okay. Well,
that was a huge rant on the golf cart parking.
We'll table the idea for now. But no. So what do you think about how the city manages trees? Because trees are a big issue in this city, and I've actually had some of my friends who have listened to the podcast. They've said, "What's the deal with trees in your city?" And people don't understand like what the trees mean and what kind of soul that the trees help maintain with the city.
No, I think it's what kind of unifies everything. And if it was up to my grandmother, we'd all live in trees. We just have tree houses, and being one with nature, which is a great concept too.
I'm not opposed to tree houses.
Yeah,
mandatory golf carts, mandatory tree houses.
We'd be the greenest. We'd be the greenest city, in the world. Yeah. I don't know how, that might take a little bit longer than one term, but I mean, we can work in that direction. But no, we got to do something about the trees. Obviously, there's going to always be that fight against, hey, it's my property, I want to do whatever I want on it, to the point of where we have rules for a reason. And that goes back to my kind of comment on when you move to Ocean Springs, you know what you're in for. It for the most part is not a surprise. We're a small art community when we like trees. Like that should just be on our brochures. Yeah.
So welcome to Ocean Springs. Oh, by the way, we like trees.
Yeah.
Which is honestly self-evident.
Art and trees. Yeah. Which I just thought was it was a given. But we got to write stuff down nowadays for people to get it. But no, what you're getting into when you buy property in Ocean Springs. I had to pay, no telling, I forgot how much. I probably didn't even ask my wife how much it cost to get some trees trimmed that were dying and had to get looked at by a tree specialist. I don't know.
Arborist. Yeah.
To tell me that they might be able to save some, they might not be able to, and they were magnolias and I loved them, but some reason when the house got built, they didn't like it. They started dying. We had 2 oak trees that we had to get cut down because they've died and were falling on people's houses. Not mine, but so I know that there is the times where you just got to get them cut down. Yeah. Where they're going to start, falling on people. They're dead, and there's times where they need to just be maybe cut back a little bit. You can put fertilizer. There's people that's what they do for a living. They're tree whisperers. Yeah.
Arborist.
Yeah. We're still going with tree whisperers. It's fine. But no, we have to kind of have that mindset that it's kind of a last resort to cut trees down. And obviously there's a list of, ones that are more protected than others. I have 2 pecan trees that sit on the property where the shop's at, right there on Government Street, and people love them. I hate them. And I actually have every right by law to cut them down. No questions asked. Would people raise hell? Probably. They probably don't even know that they're pecan trees. But they're beautiful trees for the most part for most of the year
until you have to clean up after.
Yeah. And then you have some branches start falling down. You have a little kid with a popsicle get hit with a couple of pecans, and but no, we need to keep them, whether they be live oaks, magnolias, and because I knew when I opened up a shop in downtown Ocean Springs, we have these trees, we kind of have to live with them, do what you can. It's kind of a part of.
It's great that you've accepted that as just a responsibility, which is all you're advocating too. Like, look, you've come here, you want to live here, great. You just need to know, oh, by the way, we like trees.
Yeah. And I think the issues with the ones on Front Beach.
Right. They were talking about the ones on the property where they're trying to build, and that's litigation, or the Fort Marpole.
No, the ones that on the property, on the personal property, that could be easily avoided. And at that point, that's you know what you signed up for. You can't raise hell where living somewhere where they're real uppity about trees. We can, it's our thing. And then the one at Fort Marpole, I'm not 100% on like the issues, like or where it's at right now. It got damaged during the storm, and right now you can actually go by it, and they've hung or maybe put yellow tape on the branches that have been recommended to at least be cut down to maybe reduce the weight on the tree so it doesn't tip over. But the problem is that some of the aldermen have had conversations with arborists, and some of them might say in private, yes, you could save it, but they won't put their name to that and put it on an official piece of paper, And I don't know if there's an issue with just within the arborist community, the tree whisperer community, but it does seem that there's a liability issue. And to make matters worse, the insurance company that insures the city has said that the city is 100% on the hook because of the state that the tree is in for any sort of liability. Mm-hmm. So, that puts the city kind of in the position to say, well, we can't afford like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit over something where they only have letters from arborists saying, no, it's not safe, it can't be recovered, it must be torn down, which is obviously the safe thing to say. But apparently there are some people who have said it could be saved, but they won't certify that statement, which it sounds like to me, tree's probably going to come down. Yeah,
if I guess, but
we're in a sue happy, culture.
Yeah,
people are gonna, you don't know what people are gonna do. You go climb on the tree and be hanging off a limb and it breaks. Yeah. Somebody falls, be like, I fell off a tree. Be like, well, you were climbing a tree. It's good odds that you might fall out of a tree if you're climbing in a tree.
Well, the issue too is that it overhangs the park and the splash pad.
And I did see that they have that they had that roped off.
Yeah,
which again we live in a hurricane prone area. Sometimes you're gonna lose trees to nature. It was a natural disaster. Guess what?
That's where I'm at with it, honestly. It's like, well, look, that it's not that the city decided to pull the tree. Yeah. Like nature did. And
I'm all for saving trees, but at some point you do have to look at safety. You have to look at what it's going to take, how long is it going to take for it to, regain its roots, if it even does. And then you have to, again, look at safety and of the kids playing on there. I think that you could take the route of shoring it up with some kind of scaffolding situation temporarily. But again, that is, a maybe. It's still never, 100%. Yeah. I mean,
well, hell, the trees lift up houses with their roots.
Yeah.
The idea that for me, and again, this may very well be possible with somebody that has the education. I have zero education on it. But to me, if it's got the strength to lift up a house, a multi-story house, what in the world makes you think that, or why would somebody think that you could drive this tree back into the ground? And again, I'm a moron. I don't know anything about it.
Again, my tree knowledge is very low.
Right. Ditto. Yeah.
I like them. They're pretty. I plant quite a few of them in random places. But I feel like it all depends on odds and how much it's going to cost. And because of where it's at, if, at some point you're gonna have to make those decisions, and no one's gonna like any like. There's going to be people that are going to complain about cutting it down. There's going to be people that complain about not cutting it down and about safety. It's there's no right or wrong answer. It's what's good right now. What you got to weigh your odds. And as a board of alderman, you have to make that decision with the best knowledge you have. And I think if you talk to as many people as you exhaust all the options, see what's going to be the best. And if it comes to cutting it down, again, it's Mother Nature, kind of taking on Mother Nature. Do I think that having that, concrete structure and stuff around it helped, the root structure? No, but it's there. It's a park.
Right.
If it has to go, we'll plant some more trees. At some point. I don't think it should be an issue or hold up any, it's holding up right now people being able to enjoy the park, or at least will as soon as, the weather gets right. So you have to weigh those odds. And at some point, if you're not cutting down trees kind of frivolously, then you can kind of take the loss on the few that, nature gives you, or the ones that have to be taken down. Right. And that's my whole point, is just being a little bit more selective on what you're cutting down, as opposed to just, we don't need one, or you can't say 100% they all got to stay. You can't say 100%, if you want them to go, they got to go. There has to be some kind of board for just this, because it's a big issue. It's one of the biggest issues talked about, for the residents of Ocean Springs. You have those people that, my property, my rules, but, again, it's in the fine print of living in Ocean Springs. We like trees.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Yeah. Well, Matt, look, how do people get in touch with you? If they want to support you or learn more about you?
The best way is the Facebook page for Matt Stebly, Alderman at Large. I'll have to send you the email. It's Matt Stebly, Alderman at Large @yahoo.com.
Okay. And I'll put all this stuff on the website and everything else whenever we get it set up. Do you have any last kind of pitch that you want to put out there? Or?
I know we didn't get to talk about the East Beach.
Oh no, issue. we got plenty of time. We can talk. Yeah.
So no, that's a big thing. Me living down, it's one of on the home side of everything, and one of those issues that I get to see firsthand. Right now it's about safety and accessibility to everybody. And I know the people that are living on East Beach aren't going to they don't like people parking on their property. I don't like people parking on mine, but sometimes, depending on, there needs to be some kind of access to all the citizens, not just the people that, live right there on, East Beach Drive.
Yeah. The city actually has right of way on those properties extending from the road too. And I think that's a misunderstanding that the people that own that property, they don't get. Yeah.
Is it from the,
I don't know exactly. I would have to look up the ordinance, but yeah.
And it is one thing about people being respectful for other people's property. I think that's going to be that in itself is an issue that, people sometimes aren't as respectful as they should be. But having that, those few parking spots that are on both ends of the beach fill up real quickly,
very quickly.
So there needs to be something, whether, we're widening, some kind of walkway, because there's not even a walkway or a sidewalk from, Holcomb down, which, having, 2 kids and a dog and, trying to maneuver all that down there, it's not the safest. But then once you're down there, because driving, you got to park on one end, you got to walk all the way back down. There needs to be something, and I don't think it would take a whole lot to let more people enjoy that beach.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason. It's a man-made beach. It's made for people to enjoy.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a damn good point.
And right now there's not enough parking to let people, enjoy a good portion of that beach. And I know, the people that live on East Beach Drive are going to be like, well, they should have bought, property, on the beach. And I'm like, well,
you don't own the beach, right? I mean,
you don't own the beach.
Okay,
that's a whole litigation that, that's already passed.
Me and my wife love going down there, and whenever we were down there for the alignment, was it Jupiter and Saturn that were aligned? Man, that beach was filled up. I went down there, brought the telescope out, all that good stuff. But I couldn't help but think, like, man, these people living up here are probably pissed off because it's not just parking there. I mean, the effect of parking, like ruts in the grass, like I get it, you know what I mean? And then because they're the ones that have to cut it, and then their blades are chopping up their grass because it gets in the rust. I get it. I don't know. Maybe the city might need to exercise maybe a little bit of like fixing on that right of way area so cars can have that, and define like, hey, here's your property, so we're going to take care of this. I'm not sure, but it does seem to some degree the city's like, well, it's the citizens can park there, and that's about all we're going to do about it.
Yeah, and again, not taking responsibility for, hey, here's the plan, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. It's kind of trying to pacify everyone at once. Be like, well, we didn't actually say they could park here, or but you can't not park here. There's a few different, I think, things that you could do, even if it's like right there on by the harbor where there's like a parking lot. Kind of in the middle, coming down. Like Holcomb, there's a main right there, and I guess in the middle of East Beach, there's like a little parking lot, or a little, with green space. Obviously, it's not just gonna be a parking lot sitting in sand. I'm sure people, when they hear that, are gonna lose their minds. But there's a nice way to do it, to kind of alleviate. You have one on either end, one in the middle. That avoids people parking in people's grass.
Right.
Then you make parking on the grass, or on, not in, said parking locations, ticketable, which again, I don't know how many, parking spots you can fit in a little parking.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I mean,
parking island.
Anything's better than nothing. I'd say that. But I think there is actual muscle movements at play to get a sidewalk, at least on the beach, on the south side of the seawall. So
and then you're getting into the whole, like, you're putting concrete, on sand, and
well, people got to have a place to walk, But the issue is like just that it's on sand, and sand moves a lot. Is that the issue?
You're going to have the erosion issue,
Sure,
and the same thing. You're going to run into the same thing that they're running into on Front Beach.
Yeah.
Which I probably have an unpopular opinion on that too. It's a man-made beach. We're going to have issues. They're looking at it after a storm. It's made for the everyday kind of runoff situation. And then let them finish it, and let's see. Then we can, burn them at the stake after the fact, that after it's done. I tried to explain to a client of mine, it's like somebody looking at a painting that I'm halfway done with and being like, that sucks. I'm like, it's not done.
Yeah.
Let me finish it, and then tell me if it sucks or not.
Right.
At least give me that benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
Because again, the project's not done, and the whole thing is not what I would have done from the jump, but it started, and at some point we've got to let them finish it, see what the end result's going to be, and not just try to jump the gun on whether it's going to work or not, because those people are a lot smarter than me, and they went to school for engineering, and Legos is about as far as my engineering degree goes. So.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same.
But no, the beaches are a big issue, and that I feel like they need to be addressed just for the public, not just for people that are visiting the city, but then for people that are visiting the city that want to go to the beach. That's not, I've seen the influx of people that are not wanting to go to Florida, and in these places because they're overcrowded, and they don't have that feeling that Ocean Springs has. But then we have the beach issues, and on the other end, the city says the amount of money it costs to keep them, the upkeep of beaches and stuff like that. When you have nice things, you got to keep them up. Yeah. And that's, again, goes back to the tax and how much we pay in taxes. And where does it go? And if you have these nice spaces, obviously you have to keep them up, because if you let them, dilapidate, then there's just an eyesore at that point.
Entropy sets in. Things are naturally going to fall apart if left to their own devices in time. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And that was a big thing with Connie that I did appreciate. She, I feel like she supported the arts a little bit more than the regime that's in there right now, and finding like things to do to help the art community out, and to put them in the spotlight, which one of my main things I wanted to bring up was not just the entrances of Ocean Springs. We have 3 entrances right now, and I think unifying them with some form of kind of entrance, very unified, because some people don't know when they're getting into Ocean Springs and not. Like,
yeah, that's a fair point.
They just, I can't tell. There's a little sign that says, city limits. And then, you have going over the bridge, when you're getting into to Ocean Springs. But having something unify, the entire city, which it doesn't have to be huge. It could, but something extra.
Yeah, right.
And not just a little.
And that brands the city from any direction, where you're at kind of deal.
And not just in the downtown area, because I know that there's a lot of people in East Ocean Springs that feel kind of like the redheaded stepchildren of Ocean Springs. So let's carry that and unify the whole city. And another idea that I had was kind of sculptures. I don't know if you're familiar with Hattiesburg has something similar to the Swans, I think, and businesses. As a business, you would purchase a very large sculpture, and an artist would paint it, and then it would be kind of a marker within the city, and then the chamber or the city in general could have, like, say, a map of the 20 or 30 sculptures that you have throughout the town,
driving people to look around businesses, bring them to them. I see the point.
And it's one of those things that cost the city zero. It would all be paid for by businesses that wanted to get their name on, some kind of sculpture. I had a few ideas on the different subject matters that you could do and get something made. And I figured we'd have some kind of a city vote, or just some kind of public opinion on what kind of animal. I mean, they're pelicans, alligators, shrimp, or there's 100 different animals that we could pick. And have some cool sculpture made of one. Use one of Walter's, a cat, or there's a lot of cat, a rooster.
Well, and not even just that. I mean, it could be a shrimping boat. Something indicative of the city. It could be an oak tree. It could be a large magnolia flower. Something like that. I mean, I like the idea. I mean, it makes sense to me.
And then you're also
kind of
having
the same thing they did with the shrimp signs. Where you can drive through, you say, "Hey, look, down this way are these different things."
The only difference is that you would know, like, there would a little better advertising on what those signs are. It took me a while to even know what the
they just popped up one day, and I was like, okay, what is this?
Yeah. I feel like they had them up there, but then they didn't have the
marketing
they ran out of money for that project. But no, having these sculptures throughout town would give people a reason to, like, oh, I want to see this one. Or you're having these local artists design them, so you're putting money back into the city. So either way, you're having more art. You're putting money in, giving money to artists so they can create more, and making the city prettier.
Yeah.
And
I'm
also
really liking this idea, honestly.
It's like, for visitors around, and like a giant scavenger hunt.
Sure.
And then it's also a way to get social media presence for the city, hashtag OS or whatever hashtag we decide to use. But people love taking photos with kind of, symbolic thing. There's an awful mural in Nashville that people wait 2 hours to take a picture in front of. Like,
well, again,
you can
like
have that same thing, but just better.
Yeah, not awful. But I think about what you could do on that same, call it a plaque or whatever that has things on there, or maybe in the program itself. I think of like maybe somebody picks up a program, then they see this particular statue, and maybe it's got a story behind the artist, and then it talks about maybe the businesses that are there, maybe a picture of where it's at so they can see it. Hashtag this, that, or the other. They can type that in, and plus you get the opportunity even put the artist information there, and so you're creating a vehicle for artists to actually grow their brand as well, and they can provide exposure of their art, because I'm not an artist, right? But maybe you can attest this. It's kind of hard to grow your art brand. Like we all know, like you think of Van Gogh, like Van Gogh was popular when he died,
Oh yeah. So you got to die first to be a famous artist.
You didn't have to though.
Hey, not yet. I definitely think that I'm lucky I didn't have to die yet for people to know who I was. But there's not any real negativity or negative points I could find, with the whole sculpture idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I pitched it to the chamber too. They obviously like the idea, but it's somebody's got to spearhead it. There's got to be some kind of here's a project, there's got to be an advancer. Somebody's got to spearhead the whole thing, and and not costing the city money, and just being another, again, the extra that this city is about, just something extra, and also I think it unifies everything, and that was one of the biggest kind of questions that I had gotten through doing this the whole campaign is they felt East Ocean Springs is feeling a little left out of the downtown area, but having this, it unifies, it gives people a reason to kind of travel the entire length of Ocean Springs and find things that they probably wouldn't have found any other way.
Well, cool. Again, so what else is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think with the biggest points we kind of hit, the parking issues in downtown, the unifying, Ocean Springs in its entirety, and hopefully eventually, annexing parts of Jackson County that, in long-term benefit Ocean Springs, I feel like greatly, having that interstate access, and then, eventually Gulf Park Estates, but that's another whole bag of worms
for sure. Well, look, Matt, I'll be honest with you. It's of all the people running, maybe Elizabeth Fader-Hosey fits in this category, but a lot of the people that are running, I would say, are more focused on controlling how government influences their life, and rather than maybe focusing on the things and protecting the things in the city that kind of identify the city and give the city its soul, its meaning, its feel. And that, I think, is rooted in the arts. It's rooted in the culture. And you have a very unique perspective of that, being an artist, growing up in that, really creating that. I mean, your family, you're part of the lineage that created a lot of the art that we know to be, that we relate to Ocean Springs specifically. And so I do think that perspective is necessary, and I think it's very important. So I'm very glad that you are running.
It's the biggest question I think I have that friends of mine ask are like, why? Like, why are you going to run? And it's not something that I set out and I was like, I want to be a politician. I'm not the most outspoken person. No one pays me to talk to them. I'd be a terrible counselor. But I love the city, and I want to make sure that, the people in the city's voice is heard, and that what, they want to see, like what they want to see from the city is actually happening. And not just what's the cheapest, what's the easiest, having the best takes work, takes money, and it doesn't just happen. It's we don't get the you don't get rewarded for being mediocre, and that's not what Ocean Springs wants. We want we pride ourselves on being the best. Let's continue to move in that direction and not just kind of take the shortcuts.
Right. Well, look, the citizens benefit when you have passionate people, running and trying to improve the city, and you certainly fit in that category. And again, I'm glad you're running, and I wish you the best of luck, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I haven't talked this long in a very long time.
Well, you did great. You did great.
I definitely didn't do as bad as I thought.
It takes a while to get kind of comfortable because it's kind of weird, right? But at the end of the day, it's just a conversation. But in any case, Matt, you're welcome back anytime. And if this can be a vehicle to kind of help you out, let me know also. But yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah, next time we'll talk about maybe some art or
maybe over some beers too.
Hey, I'm always down for that.
My wife said, what if he offers to give you a tattoo on air? I said, if Matt brings his tattoo equipment, I'm getting a tattoo on video. I don't care. I don't have a tattoo, but I'll do it. So,
I've done them in some, I've traveled and tattooed in many places, but never, while being recorded.
Yeah. It's a different thing. But again, Matt, good luck. Thanks for coming on, man. And everybody, thanks for watching. See ya. That's it.
That's it.